Good evening. Michigan City Redevelopment Commission special meeting, Monday, March 28th, 2022, 5 p.m., maybe a few minutes late. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call. Good. Councilperson Deutsch.
Present.
Councilperson Hendricks.
Here.
Councilperson Dennis.
Here.
Councilperson Barrett.
I think I'm a commissioner.
Oh, Commissioner, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then, Commissioner, yes. And then Councilperson Chatfield, present. So, and then also Commissioner Domkowski is here as well.
Present.
Thank you. So this evening, we want to really spend some time talking about the Michigan City Mixed Use Transit Center project, the agreement with respect to the approval of that document. And I would turn that over to Skylar at this point with the next step.
Yes, thank you. So tonight before us, we're here to approve a contractual agreement between the City of Michigan City and Flaherty and Collins to start the process of moving forward with our mixed-use transit center at 11th and Franklin. And with that, we've been working very diligently to come up with to create this project agreement. I'm going to hand it over to Alan, who's been involved in it, and I'm also going to hand it off to Ruth to fill in where she needs to, and I'll try to fill in some blanks too as needed. But I'm going to start off with Alan. He just recently got off a conversation with our attorneys in Indianapolis. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alan. The floor is yours.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just by way of history, when it first started that the double track project went from a pipe dream into becoming a reality, we started to set in motion as a city, as a commission, and with NICD, various kinds of responsibilities to go forth with that. The first thing was the operating and maintenance agreement as it relates to who's going to be responsible for operating the parking structure. So when I refer to the October 2020 agreement, that's the one I'm talking about. The next one was the joint development agreement that we approved in October of 2021, where we said that we were left with two choices. One choice is just doing NICD would build a parking structure, and there would be some development along the side that the commission would be responsible for and the city would be responsible for. The other alternative was let's just do a grand scheme. Let's really think big and let's try to make a station block development project as it relates to not only the parking structure, which he had to do, which what NICD was committed to doing, but also go forth with a development project as well. NICD was okay with that, conditioned on the fact that on March 31st or earlier, and it will not be earlier, on March 31st, the city had to have an agreement with the developer to develop that property as we saw fit, but that the 437 parking spaces that NICD was requiring and the federal government would be in place. So that's the October 21 agreement. And that brings us to where we are today. The penalty on that, before I get too far off that though, if we could not get an agreement with the developer by March 31st, we were committed towards the extra cost that would be incurred by NICD because they were all set to let contracts for contractors for construction of the garage on November 1st. Any increased costs would be ours. And again, with maybe they were worst case scenarios, but some of those numbers were being thrown around last fall were $500,000, given inflation, given supply chain shortages, as well as increased interest rates, et cetera. I have no idea if that's a realistic figure or not, but we know there'd be some significant amount of money that the city would have to pay if we didn't get this agreement in place. I sent you a general overview of where I think the agreement was on Saturday. And for the most part, I think that's still in place. Let me say that differently. For the most part, that's still in place. There are some fairly substantive changes. First of all, just by way of recap, you need to think of this no longer in terms of three different things. And that was the garage, the rooftop amenities on top of the garage, and the mixed-use development. The garage and the amenities on top are now considered one and done themselves. So the contract itself is going to be, when it gets to its final form, will reflect that's what we're doing. The money that's being used to construct that is the $16 million that Nick D has committed to this project. Any overage on the $16 million would be our responsibility. If you look on a common saying is the fact private developers can do a better job and a cheaper job or a more efficient job than public sector employment or public sector project, we can assume or presume that the garage itself will come in under $16 million, thereby leaving extra money for this rooftop amenities. And the rooftop amenities came out of the committee that was appointed to review all the proposals for the development on that project. And the committee felt that was to be important. And rightfully so. I mean, city money, they should have some aspect to it as well. So that's kind of where we are at this point. The other thing this agreement calls for, though, is a requirement, and this really is the big thing. The requirement that in 60 days' time, there will be a more elaborate development agreement with Flaherty and Collins, or not only this of what we're talking about, this garage, but will also be the mixed use aspect as well. I think I said on Saturday pretty much to the point that once we get the mixed use agreement in place, this becomes irrelevant, and that's no longer absolutely true. Part of it is, but an awful large part of this will also be incorporated within a mixed use development. Now, some differences, or one thing, I guess, in terms of that I want to make sure you're aware of, one of the things was in the agreement that was left blank is that there's a mention there. I mean, obviously, we want to do this for creating jobs. For the parking garage, just only the parking garage, it would be 64 temporary jobs as it related to construction. As it related to mixed use, 200 construction jobs, and then 71 permanent full-time jobs when the mixed use was completely done with. What's that?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. I'm reading because I just found that out too. Just for the parking garage, 64 temporary construction jobs. For the mixed use, including the garage, 200 construction jobs, and then 71 permanent full-time jobs for the operation of the mixed use area. But that's, again, I mean, a significant difference between simply the garage and the mixed use. Simply where we were last October and where we really want to be in 60 days. The other things that have been a little bit, let me just kind of give you a sense of why I'm being a little bit evasive or why I may not have complete answers, is because where we were on Saturday is different from where we are right now on a couple of major issues, which I'll get to in a second. This thing continues to evolve and continues to be in discussion and negotiations with Flaherty and Collins. But we have till Thursday, basically, to make sure we get that done. And again, as I said, 90% of it, I think, is already done. The biggest thing that's happened, and this just happened this afternoon, is Flaherty and Collins wants to close on the property now in September. We had contemplated closing on the property in September. Did I say September? I said September. They want to close down next June. And I'm not sure what the reason is for that. I know what they're saying is because then by next June, they'll have an idea of what the actual maximum cost will be for the entire project and what they are personally going to guarantee, for financing this project. So I understand that aspect of it. I don't understand that in relationship to the fact that this garage has to be completed by May of 2024, May 15th of 2024. So that's something that has to be discussed and fleshed out in the next 2 days. That was probably, and then the other thing, which I don't know why, I'm not sure I understand why they're making a big deal out of this one, because at this time, I do 60 days from now, But at this time, I don't understand the big deal as it relates to operating the parking structure. If we fail at this and we do not get a mixed use aspect out of this, the agreement that I sent to you on Saturday contemplates the city would be responsible for operating the garage pursuant to the October 2020 agreement. And that's always been the case. That has not changed anyway. In all our discussions with Flaherty and Collins, that has always been there. And that is why in the agreement that I sent you Saturday, it is noted that once the construction of the garage is done, the 437 spaces are there, operation comes back to us. That was there in October 2020 and is still there as we sit here right now. The difference comes back then within the mixed use. And as we had discussions with them on operating the garage and the mixed use aspect, that's gone back and forth. Sometimes they were going to do it, sometimes we were going to do it, and back to them. And as most recently then as early this afternoon, now it's back on us. And I'm not sure that I understand the change in position, but I don't know that we need to have the answer for that tonight. I think we need to have it, because I think that answer has been settled tonight as it relates to the parking structure only. I think when it comes to the mixed use, I think that's still open for discussion as it relates to the totality of the project. Let me stop there before I go too much further. And I don't have a whole lot more to add, but I guess, do you understand what Skylar and I and Flaherty and Collins and Nicky, I guess, is being asked of the commission tonight as it relates to this agreement and the reason why it's so important?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So in a nutshell, what we're going to decide tonight is as presented, and then you'll come back with a more detailed one later and we'll decide on that one too.
In 60 days on the mixed use one, that's correct.
Okay.
This is the one we have to do
I'm just
for the March 31st deadline.
Okay.
Also,
In simplest terms.
I
So
also want to be very clear that tonight we're going to approve this document is probably, let's say, 99.9% done. We need to cross some T's and dot I's and sign probably before Thursday. Absolutely.
Right. And I think what I'm asking for tonight is that we have approval for this agreement subject to changes as it relates to closing date, since that just came up this afternoon and I don't have an answer for that right now. As it relates solely to this one issue that you just presented.
but the closing date is for the project in its totality or just the parking structure?
They raised this afternoon the closing date of next June for the whole thing. And
Okay.
I don't get that. I don't know why. I don't have an explanation for that.
So,
So that may be something that gets changed from what I gave you on Saturday to where we are Wednesday or Thursday.
Could I have Ruth just maybe interject some comments, just making sure?
And this,
Because we've talked earlier and I know you've been intimately involved in
well, I didn't know about
discussions.
this afternoon's conversations, but they had always contemplated beginning construction in June of next year. And we thought, because we've been really working very, very hard on expediting the sort of the calculus on the incentives, that there was a way to move that up so we'd all have some comfort on the timeline. And like we said, this is, I wasn't aware of that conversation, but they've always thought about saying that they were going to mobilize in June of next year, and they didn't want to have a construction loan sooner than that because they didn't want the clock running. That's the way they operate. We were hoping, and this is absolutely, this is the messy sausage of doing development projects. So you're in the midst of this. This is all solvable. It's
absolutely.
just, we've just got to get, there's so many parties involved on this. You will get through this. These are absolutely solvable issues. And I think the way I think about tonight is that your attorneys have worked through a very elegant solution to sort of take a complicated agreement and do it in two parts, so that by doing it in two parts, the part one that you're signing off on tonight, or you're being requested to sign off on tonight, is the one that satisfies the NICD concerns. And just remember, it's not just NICD. NICD has got the FTA breathing down its neck. This is a really heavy stack of cards, So we get the agreement in two parts, gets NICD's concerns satisfied. If it's when executed on Thursday, and it allows the city valid time, important time for you as a commission and as a city to understand what is the total incentive package. So I think it really is a very nice solution.
I think it also puts a couple of other things in motion we're expediting them, which is our application to the state for tax credit applications.
Yeah.
It allows those things to start. We're putting them into motion quicker than waiting because the state meets in June again to hand out tax credits. And this allows us to put that in motion right now. In fact, hopefully by the end of the week, we might have.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important. Michigan City now is going into a transition period. It's a pivot point. You're getting very substantial developers coming to work with you. And this is an advantage of working with a very seasoned developer with lots of experience, because they are going to, they do tax credit, they do public-private partnerships frequently, and they will be able to file, and probably will be a joint application to the tax credit authorities by this Friday, which is a huge deal. No one would choose to do that for fun. But they are going to do that. And I think one of the points I would like to mention, and then this is how it all starts tying very nicely together, is that when they make that application and the city joins in some way, we are going to have a chance. I'm so vested in you guys. I'm sorry. I think of myself as a Michigan. You will have a chance to put together a really substantial package of support letters that will make it very difficult for the IEDC to not sort of recognize at how many levels this project matters. So that's, Alan is right. This is a deal that will get done. It's going to be messy in parts, but all of the parties want this to happen. And everyone has to, roll up their sleeves and do the hard work and make sure that your respective interests are protected, but it will get done. So sorry, I talked too much.
No, that's
Thanks
for thinking. No,
Thank
that's
you.
great. Kind of filling in some blanks.
Attorney?
So how many
Any
signatories?
questions?
How many signatories are there to this agreement?
Say it again.
How many signatories are there to this agreement on?
The city, Redevelopment Commission, and Flaherty and Collins.
Okay. And is there any reluctance on Flaherty and Collins?
No.
Okay.
Well.
So I guess I'd ask the question to Mr. Barrett. What's the thought process in that question?
Well, if we don't hit the deadline,
Which deadline?
the one at the end of this month.
Well, I've not heard anything that said that they're reluctant. They're not reluctant.
Not at all.
Okay.
Okay,
They
yeah.
are,
I just want to make that clear that there's no reluctance on Flaherty's side. It's that
they don't make a whole lot of money on the garage. They don't make a whole lot of money on building the garage. They make a lot of money on building a successful development. So yes, they are clearly motivated, but they understand that the time constraints we have between now and March 31st. So they are okay with this binding agreement while we continue to negotiate in the next 60 days for a mixed use aspect. And they are just as motivated as we are towards making that done. That's why I said at the beginning of this, if we fail to do that, if we fail to come up with a mixed use agreement, commission fails, city fails, but so too does Flaherty and Collins. So yeah, we all have an equal investment in this.
valid question. Okay, yeah, Ken, that valid question is, maybe the pivot today on timeline on when to close maybe has, I understand it. So valid question though, Ken, thank you. I guess I'd ask if there are any other comments or questions from the commission.
A question on the mixed use responsibility. You had said that we thought that was their responsibility for the mixed use management. And they're saying now they don't think that's
As
gonna
it
be
relates to the garage or as it relates to the mixed use aspect of it?
the mixed use aspect.
No, they're going to be responsible for the mixed use aspect.
Okay,
It was only as it relates to the garage where the issues come back and forth,
Okay.
where, again, if it's only we do the garage, we will have responsibility for that. If we do the garage and the mixed use component, like I said, that operating the garage has gone back and forth 4 times now.
okay.
And probably will go back 4 more times between now and Thursday.
And can that be changed when we do the final mixed use agreement then? Can that,
We'll have 60 days to iron that out.
okay,
It will not be changed if this is all we have.
right, okay.
The clock kind of starts ticking tonight on us. So I think Alan did a really good job of summarizing it, and Ruth as well. So
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Sarnik. If there are no other questions from the commission, I'd ask for any public comment this evening. Hearing no public comment, any other additional so Attorney Sarnik, do we need to have a motion to approve the agreement as it is today with additional changes?
I think the way we've done this in the past would be a motion to approve the agreement as has been discussed tonight,
Yes, sir.
knowing full well there may be 2 or 3 other changes to that, and you have the authority to execute that on behalf of the commission with those changes.
And those changes would be conveyed to the
Absolutely.
entire commission prior to signing any said agreement.
yes,
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah,
We'll
that's-
get you a
that's
clean
doable.
copy.
That's the way, yeah, that's the way I'd like to do it.
Yeah, that's
Okay. So that being said, I guess I would ask for any additional commissioner comments. Okay, hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve the mixed-use transit center project agreement as stated currently with potential changes that will be conveyed to the commission prior to signatures being conveyed.
Well, I thought we had a slide on. I move that we do all of the things you just said, that we approve the contract that has been presented with additional changes that may occur.
I second the motion.
All right, having a first and a second, I would go through roll call. Commissioner Deitch,
Aye.
Commissioner Hendricks,
Aye,
Commissioner Dennis,
Aye.
Commissioner Barron,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much. That being said, I would tell Mr. Schuyler York that hard work has been done, but hard work is ahead.
There's a lot more to do.
I do want to make sure that we thank a few folks here. Obviously, the commission, Adam Collins, our attorney down in Indianapolis, Attorney Cernick, and Ruth Warren has been. She says we. She believes it's we because it is we that we're moving forward with. I can't exclude Tom Domkowski, who's been such a great advocate of ours from as our liaison from the schools. And so if there are no other comments this evening, am I forgetting anybody? The city, the mayor, everybody that's been involved. I think this has been a great transformation of what we're doing. And I can't tell you how excited I am with what's going to occur in the next 24 months in Michigan City.
Maybe one person or one group that you didn't include
Yes. Oh,
is that, when Skylar and I first started talking about this last September, I guess it was, and going through these negotiations, and I asked the question, what happens if we don't get any developers who show an interest in this? And Skylar, in no uncertain terms, told me to keep my mouth shut. That wasn't going to happen. So while we had 3 developers, I think special recognition needs to go to Flaherty and Collins on a number of different levels. First of all, their interest in Michigan City. Second of all, their commitment towards making this project work. And third of all, they bring with them a reputation that when we talked about those tax credits, that gets both feet in the door because of who they are. So
yeah.
this clearly is a partnership between the city of Michigan City and Flaherty and Collins. And thank God it was for them that they did express their interest.
Yeah. Thanks, Ellen. Very exciting times here in Michigan City.
I think we should also give a round of congratulations to the group that steered us through this project.
I agree with you. Yeah, our selection committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah, and thank you, Ken, for that. This process to get us to where we are today, it was a very, from my perspective, eye-opening experience to sit with folks that had differing opinions, but we all came to a conclusion as to where we need to be today. And with this project, with the rooftop area and some other amenities, and making sure that we are stewards of Michigan City. We're stewards of what's going to happen with this project. And please understand that the renderings that have been sent out and people have seen are not, they're not the things that, they're not the final drawings. Those are to come. And also please understand that we're taking the environment, we're taking historical review board, we're taking the city and traffic, and we're taking all those things. Those are so important for us. We can't just, I say, plop down a building with a parking garage and say, here it is. We're being conscientious. We're trying to be very transparent in our approach. And if we don't do that as government people that are involved in the community, we're not doing the right thing. And we're doing that, and with all the partners involved. And so that's very important. And everybody involved needs to understand that that's what we've gone through. Skylar and his team, the city council, the mayor, we've all looked at those things and made sure that we're not doing things that are disruptive to where we're headed. It's progress, and sometimes progress is kind of messy. It is messy, it's hard, but it is, at this time in the world, in what we're doing, it's necessary. So that's my my dissertation. So I would ask for a motion for adjournment this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you, everybody.